Welcome to the jungle. That is my garden right now. Today I'm going to tell you 5 mistakes I've made in my garden and how I'm going to improve on them for this next year. I don't normally like to say mistakes. I like to think of them as growth. So things that I've done that I don't really like that hopefully I will improve upon as I go forward with my garden. I will also try to show you some of my glows for this year as well. I've been fairly happy with my garden so far, but right now it's a bit of a mess. There is a lot of weeds. We've had a lot of rain this year, a lot more than the past few years. Our temperatures have been down between in the 80s, low 90s as well, which is also very significant. So we've had more rain, lower temperatures. Things have gotten honestly out of hand with the weeds. So that's when I have all these weeds in my in my pathways and all over. I'll try to show you around and show you some of the space around me. Right now I'm sitting in a walkway, which you can't see. My mistake number 1 is not mulching as much as I should have. I should have mulched my pathways better to hopefully keep down the weeds. I tried doing cardboard, which I'm going to try a little bit more again this year and see, or the remainder of this year, and see how that goes. I'm going to double it up and maybe we'll see if we can get some of the weeds tamped down a little bit more. But yeah, mulching is going to be my big thing, I think, coming up to try to help prevent the weeds from coming back and keeping it from being just a walkway of weeds. Okay, so number 2 is trellising or caging up my tomatoes. I have some tomatoes back here that I can't get to, that have some cages on them, and they're somewhat supported. But this row of tomatoes, I did not put any kind of support on them, and they have just become a big mass of tomato vines everywhere, which has made it really difficult because, especially this one, which I really love this one. It's a beautiful, purple tomato, but I can't get to most of them because they're hidden away somewhere underneath this massive branches and leaves and everything. So this one is an indeterminate tomato and it needs to be supported and trellised up high, and I didn't do that. So that was mistake number 2. The other ones that are determinate and they stay kind of bushy also didn't really get any kind of support, which then they kind of flopped over. They split open in places and it was still really difficult to get to the tomatoes. So next year, hopefully, I'll come up with create some kind of support for them instead of just letting them flop. I thought, let me just see what happens. Well, this is what we learn from, right? Okay, and mistake number 3 that I've made this year is not creating wide enough pathways. So I'm not sure if you can tell, but this is a tomato plant that has a cage. This is a tomato plant that does not have a cage and it's flopping on the ground. But this was supposed to be a bed, and this is a row, and then this was supposed to be my walkway. I cannot walk through here. It became one big mass of a bed now. And thank you, Green Bean, for letting us know that you're here. The rooster is really loud. Hush. gonna do it again. So I made my beds, my rows and my beds really close together. I only gave them probably like a 1.5 to 2 feet in between. So that's why, like, so here's a bed, right? Here's supposed to be a walkway, and then this is supposed to be a bed right here. So it makes it really difficult to walk through. Now, there are some places in the garden where I do have a little bit wider bed and a little bit wider walkways in between, but the walkways are still not the best. So this is my walkway that's full of grass right now. And this is a bed space right here that has nothing in it. So right now it's a work in progress, but the idea will hopefully to make these beds a little bit wider. So some of these beds I'm going to combine together and give myself a little bit bigger bed, maybe 3 feet wide. Anything that's wider than that is a little bit too hard for me, I feel like, to go get the vegetables on either side. A bed I had over here, it was like 4 feet wide, I think, and it was okay because I had oats on one side and then I had like tomatoes on the other side, so it didn't affect how I harvested. But I think 4 feet is too wide for me to really be successful in harvesting. So that's why I think 3 feet and probably 3 feet walkway as well, because as I'll show you over here with with my okra, I really hadn't intended it to stay here, but my okra is over here right by the fence, and this is supposed to be my walkway right here, and it's really close to my okra, and the okra kind of grows over into the walkway, so I really can't walk right there. This whole area was full of weeds just a few days ago, and now we're working on, I'm going to solarize it and hopefully help to get rid of all the weed seeds that were here, because this area I didn't plant anything in this year. We had some wheat in here earlier this year and I was just kind of like letting it go. Now I'm going to try to actually make some rows here to plant some stuff. My okra was not supposed to stay there. It was supposed to be moved once it grew a little bit, and we got lazy and didn't do that. So that will hopefully happen next year. We'll plant it in a different spot. Okay, so I'm gonna come back over here to the okra section. My fourth thing that I think that I made a mistake on this year was randomly planting plants in my garden. As you can see, I still have a lovely onion here. Maybe it's probably gotten eaten by bugs. Oh no, it's actually not bad. Yeah, I already had harvested all the onions that I thought were in here probably in June, the beginning of June. This is now August and I found an onion. So I didn't know this was here because I thought, let me just plant some onions randomly in my garden, and that was not a smart idea. So next time, going to actually create a bed for the plants that I want to make sure I'm harvesting at a certain time. There are some things like basil and cilantro, any of those herbs. Here's some basil right here. Hey, basil. Those things, I kind of don't care if they're sort of scattered around the garden, because those are things that I can harvest when I want, or just leave them for the bugs and the butterflies and the bees. Whereas things like onions, I kind of want to make sure I get them out of the garden at a certain time. This one's actually still good. Okay, and mistake number 5 for me this year was not planting enough of certain things. Tomatoes, have plenty of. Beans, not enough of. So I planted this long bean over here, and it's actually been producing pretty well, but there's only like one plant right now, So I don't get enough of a harvest off of it, which I'd really like to have more. When I planted my beans earlier in the year as well, I got some, but I didn't really get enough that I could store away, which I was really hoping for. So my plan is to plant more this next year. Hopefully then I'll actually get something that I can store away. I was able to get some green beans from a friend and I was able to put away some of them, but I really would like to have enough that I can store up for like closer to a year's worth of food. Future Adrian here. I wanted to show you a couple of things that I forgot to share about what I thought was successful in my garden. This is turmeric, and I'm super excited about it. I tried to grow some turmeric from tubers from the store. They did not grow, but I bought some online, and these are actually growing really well so far. Like, the plants have been beautiful all summer long, so I'm hopefully going to be able to harvest soon. We'll see. Probably not for a few more months, actually, but I'm excited about getting some turmeric, and look how pretty that looks. And some asparagus is growing. So I've actually planted this asparagus from seeds. So it's not going to be ready to harvest for a few more years, but we already have some really beautiful ferns growing on it. Okay, so here's another thing that I thought was successful that I didn't share before, was my tomato. This is called a Matt's Wild tomato, and it produces these little bitty tomatoes. They're like little, like dime-sized tomatoes, basically, but it produces a lot of them, and I actually planted like probably way too many of them. Some of them popped up from last year's tomatoes that I had in here that dropped some tomatoes seeds, so those were very successful because they actually just kind of planted themselves. But I've made salsa, I've made tomato sauce with them, and they taste really good. And here is my whole mass of sweet potatoes. Hopefully there are actually sweet potatoes growing in here. We'll see in a little while what is actually underneath all of this massive green. Bonus mistake, don't forget to bring your basket with you when you come to the garden. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully I was helpful in giving you some ideas of what not to do in your garden this year.